super excited to be here. We are going to dive in today to talk about 5 things that busy and working moms can do to actually improve their eating habits in 2022. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I know when I was in elementary school, we used to do what we call current events. We had to do who, what, when, where, and how. And so that's actually how I am going to break down how you can actually improve your eating habits. So let's go ahead and let's think about who. The reason why I'm saying who is a lot of times people are eating and doing things for other reasons other than what they need. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, who are you actually eating for? Are you eating for yourself? Or are you eating because you're around a group of people that are eating things that you know you should not be eating? So the first thing that I want you to do is do a self-evaluation and determine what exactly is it that I need for me to sustain my energy from day to day. What is it that I need emotionally? Because there is always an emotional component when it comes to our eating, okay? Some of us go a little bit overboard, and that's another YouTube episode for another day. But some of us every single day have our non-negotiables. That's a term that I use with my clients. And our non-negotiables are those things that we know we absolutely cannot give up. Non-negotiable for some of my clients are coffee. Sometimes it's wine. Sometimes it's been Oreos, and we have found ways to still incorporate that into their diet. So when you determine who you're eating for, it should always be that you're eating for yourself. The next thing you need to do is, what are your non-negotiables? What are those things that you know that you cannot be yourself? Now, non-negotiables are not like eating ice cream and candy and all these other things. But there are certain things that are attached to you in the way that you eat that make you whole and make you complete. And so I will challenge you to make a list of 3 things that are non-negotiables that you know you have to incorporate in your week to week. For me, when I did my Daniel's fast, I realized that I love eggs. So eggs in the morning is a non-negotiable for me. The Celsius drink, every now and then when I need a little pick-me-up, that's a non-negotiable for me. I must have that. Having frozen yogurt with my girls is a non-negotiable at least once or twice a month. So what are those non-negotiable things that make you who you are and that you know will be mentally and emotionally challenging for you to completely nix out of your diet? Once you determine those things, you want to make sure that you are eating for you. And the reason I say that is, of course, we are in a social society. We love to go out and eat. We love happy hour. We love brunch. But what you don't want to do is put yourself in compromising situations with people who can deter you from your goals. So as for me, my family and friends over the last 5 years, they know there are certain restaurants, there are certain places that I refuse to go out and eat at because there essentially is nothing on the menu for me to eat. Now, what I may do is, get an appetizer or something of that nature, but I go in with the intention and they have an understanding that, look, if I'm going to say I'm going to TJ Fridays, I know that Tamara probably is going to say she's not coming or she's going to go sip on some water and still mingle, okay? So the reason why I say who you're eating with, you always need to eat for yourself and you make decisions for yourself. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are actually going to support you in your choices and not demean you, devalue you, or make you feel like, oh my God, girl, you crazy. Ain't no way I'm going to give this up. Because I'm just going to tell you like this. Now, I literally just had this conversation last week because I love Cheesecake Factory. I'll try to find a picture of myself. I would go to Cheesecake Factory all the time when I was at FAMU in college and go back home. I love Cheesecake Factory. But as I started tracking my macros and looking at their menu, I'm like, these calories are unjustifiable. Like, there is nothing on Cheesecake Factory's menu that is less than maybe 1,200 calories. I think they have a salmon on there, and the salmon is 700 and something calories. I mean, we're talking about salmon. Salmon that's like 300 and something calories. So my question is, at what point am I going to say, okay, I love Cheesecake Factory, but this is just unjustifiable. I cannot justify the amount of fat and calories that are in this food, okay? And so now people already know, okay, well, I know that Tamara is not going to go to Cheesecake Factory. You're right. I love it. I adore Cheesecake Factory. I love their cheesecake. I love their shrimp scampi pasta, and the list goes on. But guess what? I cannot justify the calories. And so there has to become a point in time where you have to choose yourself and be able to have those internal battles with your mind and say, you know what? I know that this is something that I do love, but I'm eating for me and my health. and make that list of things that you know that you can actually do and those things that you can't. So that's the who. I always, always, always want you to eat for yourself and your own well-being. Okay, so we did who. Let's talk about what. What are you eating? This is the biggest elephant in the room, and this is the one that people don't want to address because they want to eat whatever they want to eat. That's why people go on diets, they fall off, they go on diets and they fall off. And that is why I know diets is not for me. And I am so blessed that I found counting and tracking my macros so that I don't got to go on a diet again because I don't have time to be doing no diet when I got birthdays and we got parties and we got vacations. I needed a system that was going to work for me in my lifestyle. What exactly are you eating? Let's talk a little bit about foods, okay? This is where the what comes in. I get clients all the time in their questionnaire, oh, I can't do carbs. I'm like, sis, yes, you can. Do you understand that fruits and vegetables are carbs? What it is that the quality and the quantity of carbs that you're eating is not what you should be eating, or you're eating it disproportionately. So it's not that you need to nix or take out a complete food group. It's what exactly are you eating quality and quantity wise? Let's talk about the quantity wise, right? This is the elephant in the room. A lot of us, we love our portions. We love to pile on the rice. We love a bunch of pieces of our meat. I know I like me a nice good piece of steak, and we just pile stuff on our plate. And a lot of times we eat until we see at least most of our plate is gone and completed with, right? Even if we're full. I have been at my grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and I would tell myself, I'm only gonna do one plate. And I'm like, dang, I haven't been here at grandma's house all year. Man, let me go get another plate. Now, I know usually I portion out my food. And because I am eating off of taste, I'm eating as if I'm never ever going to get this food again. And I keep eating and I eat and I eat. And this is something that people do on a daily basis. So when we talk about the quantity of food, you want to look at your plate. Your plate should be 25% protein, and these are lean proteins. 25% should be complex carbs, and then the other half should be fruits and vegetables. All right, that is how your plate should look. Now, the most American diets, it's 50% carbs, such as rice, potatoes, and things of that nature. Some people even do 10 to 15% of protein, and the rest are actually fats and sugars. And so shifting your portion size and making sure that your portions are where it needs to be is one way that you can actually improve your eating habits. It doesn't have to be this all drawn out meal plan. Yes, those are structured processes to really help you get to your end goal, but you can do something as simple as portioning out your food by looking at your plate. You can get portion containers, or you could take it a step further and actually start weighing your food and tracking your food, and that way you absolutely know that you're hitting your calories and your macro goals. So that is why the quantity of food is very important, because if you're eating high quantities or large portions, you are going to pick up the calories, you're going to increase your calories, increase your macros, and you're going to be overeating. We talked about that in episode 1. When you overeat, you have a whole bunch of calories just sitting around, and 9 times out of 10, whatever is not broken down is going to be transferred and produced into fat. That's going to be stored. It's going to increase your body fat percentage. And here we are with this huge issue of obesity here in America. So to stop that, the simplest thing that you can do is portion your food, okay? So let's get into the quality of food. You want to make sure that your quality of food is where it needs to be. And here is why. So Dr. Tamara, what's the real difference between brown rice and what's the difference between white rice, okay? Well, white rice is what we can call a simple sugar, meaning it's going to go into your bloodstream, okay? It's going to spike your glucose because it's easily broken down by your digestion enzymes in your stomach, and the glucose is quickly released into your bloodstream. The problem with that is that when glucose is released, insulin is secreted from your pancreas. And so your insulin is like, okay, hold on. Here comes some more glucose. Let me go ahead and go after that. All right. So you had some hash browns for breakfast. Okay. Your insulin's like, okay, let me go run after that. An hour later, you see a piece of candy and you eating that. That's another simple sugar. Your glucose shoots out insulin is running behind that. For lunch, you have French fries and a soda, and all day your insulin is consistently chasing this glucose because it's like this is too high. The problem with high glucose is that over time it can cause your organs to become damaged. That is the issue with having a lot of glucose in your system. And that is how people end up with amputations in their legs because they're so. Think about if you pour a bunch of sugar in water, it is so concentrated, nothing can get through there. Okay. So how can blood get down to your legs and into your knees if there's a bunch of sugar in your bloodstream? That is the simplest way I can break that down. And so that is how people come up with leg amputations and arm amputations. Why they end up on dialysis for their kidneys and things of that nature because their glucose was high for an extended period of time. So that is why you have to be concerned with eating more complex carbs versus simple sugars. And so over time, your pancreas just simply gets tired. It gets tired of chasing this glucose over and over again for years, where it sees the glucose and it's like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm not even going to do this today. And that's how you become insulin resistant. And so your simple sugars, all your white rice, your candies, your sodas, your juices, your white breads, all those things, those are your simple sugars. Your complex carbs or your complex sugars, if you want to call it that, those have a complex structure. So it's going to take a little bit of time for your digestive system to break that down. And because of that, it slowly releases glucose into your bloodstream, which then allows insulin to be secreted and to let it do its work and have time to do its work. Okay, it's not chasing it like, oh my God, every minute I'm running, and I'm running like this for 15 years. At some point, your pancreas and your body's going to get tired of doing so. That's really the difference. If you look at a label that has white rice versus brown rice, you won't find that much of a difference in the macros and the calories. The difference in that is how it's broken down and how it's going to cause glucose to be released. So you want to pick better quality carbs. It's not you want to cut all carbs out. You want to make sure that you are replacing as many simple sugars, which is, like I said, your sugars, your sodas, your juices, your white bread, your white rice, your white potatoes, all those things. You want to replace those with complex carbs. That is a simple change that you can do. Simple. You're not tracking nothing. You're not doing anything. You are making a simple switch in the grocery store and saying, you know what? I'm going to buy more brown rice. I'm going to buy more sweet potato. Making those simple changes, okay? And so when it comes to fat, the quality of fat matters. The quality and the quantity of fat matters. Now, let's talk about the quality of fat. We have things called saturated fats. Saturated fats have been linked to cardiovascular disease, okay? Those are what we call our bad fats, okay? And so you want to replace as many saturated fat with unsaturated fats. Let's just a simple change would be instead of using mayonnaise in your tuna salad or whatever you use mayonnaise, spread some avocado. Avocado is a unsaturated fat. It has a ton of benefits in it. It has fiber and nutrients in it, and it is an excellent source of good fats, okay? Peanuts. A lot of people think, I'm just going to eat me a bunch of peanuts. Peanuts are not the best nut, okay? You want to make sure you're doing almonds, walnuts, things of that nature, okay? The problem with these foods is people term them as healthy foods, in which they are. They are healthier options for your oils and your fats. However, I want you to flip over a label of peanuts and you look at the serving size. People will sit up there and eat 5 serving sizes at 190 calories, and they have probably eaten more than half of the amount of fat they should be eating within a day. And again, like I said, once your body cannot consume that much fat and you are not in ketosis and on a keto diet, it is going to be stored as fat, whether it's good fat or it's bad fat, okay? We talked about carbs, we talked about fat. Protein is king. Protein is king. You want to make sure that you are getting a good amount of protein. And of course, If you are on a low protein diet because maybe you have renal disease or some other issues, of course you want to consult with your physician. But for those people that don't have that as a concern, you want to make sure that you are meeting your protein goal. 20% of the protein that you eat is actually going to be used to break down protein. Okay? Let me repeat that again. 20% of the protein that you eat is going to use itself to break it down. So that means that protein is burning its own calories. You don't get that. You get a small percentage with fat and carbs, but you don't get that much with those other two. Protein is king, okay? Protein helps you feel fuller between your meals, so it has been linked to reducing your weight. It helps with your metabolism, and when you eat lean protein, it helps with your muscle repair, especially if you're working out and you're lifting weights and things of that nature. Protein is also essential for your hormones. We're women, okay? Our hormones, especially if you're anemic and things of that nature. Hemoglobin is made from protein. It's a type of protein. So making sure that you hit your proteins and getting proteins in there and good quality proteins. Not going to get chicken wings. Let me talk about chicken wings because I know people will say, "Oh, I'm just gonna bake me some chicken wings." Go back and let's look at what a chicken wing. The picture of a chicken wing in your head. Most of the chicken wing is full of the skin and the fat. So I'm not anti chicken wings. It was a Super Bowl. I had a couple on Sunday, but those are like the only times I will eat chicken wings because even when you bite into a chicken, there's barely any meat inside of it. Okay, and so making sure that you have the proper quality of protein is very, very important. We talked about who, we talked about what, and under what we talked about the quality and quantity of things. And when we talk about the quality and the quantity of things, you want to collide those things together. You want to have great quality of foods with great quantity of food so that you can make sure that you're optimizing your health and making sure your body is performing at optimum level so you can do what you need to do for your kids, do what you need to do for yourself, and really, really take care of your temple. And then making sure you are eating the proper quantity and not overeating and also not undereating. We talked about undereating last week. Now, let me talk briefly about trans fat. And this is exactly why I cut a lot of fast food places out. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here. I have completely nixed Panera Bread because a lot of times we automatically think that these places are healthy. It's marketing. They let us know that it's healthy. When I started making my takeout guide for my clients and started looking at the nutritional facts of Panera Bread and saw that they had a lot of, when you start doing the pick two and things of that nature, if you are not savvy with what you're picking together, you can end up with a huge portion of fat. And some of their products even have trans fat in it. It blew my mind because trans fat has been directly linked to cardiovascular disease. And here we are, we have a restaurant that portrays itself through marketing as a healthier option, and they have trans fat in their foods. This is why food labels and knowing how to read a food label is the GOAT, okay? Because if you know how to read a label and know how to read the nutritional facts, there is nothing that no one can sift between you, okay? And sift under your ears and your eyes, okay? I don't want to go on a tangent about the type of restaurants that we should be going to and not going to. But what I will tell you is, in order for you to know about your quality and your quantity of food, the first thing you must do is learn how to read a food label and know what that warning sign. A food label is a warning sign. It is telling you, look, if you pick up this product, this is what I'm telling you is in this product. The problem is that we don't know how to read it, okay? So knowing how to read a food label is essential. And then having your macros, having your calories. If you don't want to do macros, that's fine. But go ahead and make sure you know how many calories you need to reach your goal and making sure you stay within that. So we did who, what, when. Let's talk about the when. All right. When are you eating? And when I say when are you eating, I want to move a little bit further than that. And I want to get into the emotional aspect of eating. Because I have even found myself, even coming off of the Daniel's fast, I realized those times when I was a little overwhelmed, I was seeking to go and get some frozen yogurt. And I was like, okay, this is going against what I'm fasting for and what my purpose is. But why am I seeking food to coat this emotion that I'm going through? So when you talk about your eating habits, I want you to start looking at, when are you eating? When are you going on binges? When are you going and derailing? When does that occur? And then when you figure that out, how are you going to prevent yourself from derailing? When I start seeing myself having all these cravings, I stopped and said, okay, when is this occurring? Why is it occurring? And what can I do about it? If I had to talk about the when, I want to talk about those emotional aspects that lead you to possibly overeating, or the opposite. Some people become derailed and they stop eating. So really honing in to that key component of your eating habit. When do those things occur? Why do they occur? And what can you do about it to reverse it so that you can stay on track? Okay. So we did who, what, when, where are you eating? All right. This is important. I know as a clinical pharmacist, I dodge the nurses' stations because nurses' stations always have some cake, some cookies. They ordering food, okay? It's always something at the nurses' station, even in the pharmacy break room, somebody dropping something off. So where are you eating? Some of us don't have the willpower to say, no, I'm not going to eat that. And that is okay. But what you do have to do is set up boundaries so that when you are in those weird spaces that can derail you, that you have some structure in place to say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and that. Maybe I'm going to commit to only one thing on this table versus the 5 to 10 I would normally take throughout the day. So think about, where are you eating? Also, when you talk about where you're eating, where are those places that you derail? Some people cannot do well at work because they have all this stuff going on. Maybe they're not prepping and their job don't have good options for food, so they are forced to do fast food or what's in the cafeteria. So the where component is very important for your eating habits, and knowing, where can you derail? Where are those places that you know are going to set you up for failure? Then what can you do about it? Okay, if I have a job and I know that there's food trucks everywhere and this and that, I got to do some meal prepping on the weekend to make sure I have my food ready to go. If you follow me on Instagram and I have my long clinical pharmacist shift, you will see I have breakfast, I have tea with me, I have my can of my big thing of water, I have my lunch, I have snacks to get me from the hospital to picking the girls up, and a salad maybe to get me from gymnastics to boot camp. I have everything set up because I am passing fast food places. I'm at the hospital, at a nurse station. There is tons of temptation around me, but my strategy is there. It's all set up. But I'm not telling you to jump from no strategy to a full strategy. What I am recommending is that you come up with a solution that's going to bridge that gap. But when you get to those where places that you know you can derail, you have a system set up. So we talked about who, what, when, where, why. Why are you eating is very important, because I don't think a lot of people even answer that question. Why exactly do you need to eat? And the answer should be, I need to nourish my temple. I need to make sure that I am giving my body the nourishment that it needs so that I can be the best version of myself. Most moms, most of us, we are tired. If you're watching this right now, you're probably tired watching this. I am tired right now talking about this. If you even knew what I had to go through this morning, okay? And last night, I woke up maybe 4 or 5 times between both of my girls last night. We are tired. But what caused us to be tired versus tired is when we don't give our body the nutrition that it needs. So a lot of us are dealing with energy. We lack energy, but we're feeding our body wrong quality of foods. We're binging on energy drinks and coffee and caffeine, and we're not even eating whole foods. We're eating a bunch of fried and fattening foods. And so not only are we not getting the rest we need, we're not even giving our body the proper nutrition that it needs to function the way that it should. So I want you to really ask yourself, so you can actually improve your eating habits, why are you eating? And the answer should be, I am eating because I know I need to give my body the proper nutrition. When you start really understanding the why, it makes it easier for you to make better food choices. So I hope that this episode was a blessing to you and truly will help you really hone in on your eating habits. I actually developed this quiz. I developed this quiz because I find that a lot of people are struggling with eating habits. You really have a desire to be great, but something keeps pulling you. And so I actually created a quiz that you can take. It's a 10-question quiz that you can take to determine, are you overeating? Are you under eating? Are you eating to maintain your weight? Or are you actually losing weight? And this is a great starting point because I then will give you 3 tips to help you get on track with your goal. So if you're overeating, how can you reverse that? If you're under eating, how do you reverse that and get to your goal? If you're maintaining your weight and you actually want to lose or gain weight, what can you do? So go ahead, click the link, sign up, complete my quiz, and I will give you 3 actionable steps for you to do so you can correct that. Okay. So next week episodes, I am super excited because I'm going to be breaking down all things macros. I'm going to be explaining why you should be counting and tracking your macros versus your calories. I promise you don't want to miss it. If you don't know my story, I was completely against tracking macros. I said, girl, I don't have time to be doing that. But I'm going to tell you, it was a game changer for me. It helped me overcome my plateau, and it gave me the liberation to eat with my girls, eat pizza, do ice cream here and there, have a cheeseburger here and there, go out for dates with my husband without the emotional attack that I did to myself with, I can't eat this bad food. I overdid it on my cheat day. There are no cheat days when it comes to tracking your macros and counting your macros, okay? And so I'm going to break down what the difference is in tracking macros versus counting your calories, and why you should probably try counting your macros over calories. So I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And everyone have a blessed day.